and I told you so. I'm a kid in the candy store. Put the leather on the denim. I ain't the cure, I'm the venom. If you wanna find me, find the taillight. Something's coming in, you're gonna wanna take a red eye. It's time to go. It's time to go. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Don't blink, don't blink. Get ready.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat, mga kabansa. Ito ang inyong lingkod, Paglinawan, na nagpupugay ng isang pagbati. No? Saan man parte ng mundo kayo naroon, dito po sa ang Maestro at Katipunan channel. Ang ating pong topic ngayong araw na ito, mga kabansa, ay pinamagatang Idiotization of the Filipino. At ang patungkol po sa Senate Bill 2492 na pinamagatan ng Senado natin, ng Maritime Zones Bill. Sa pag-aaral po natin ito ay medyo step by step i-guide ko kayo. Dahil masalimuot po ang bill na ito, which is really a hodgepodge. No? Ano ang hodgepodge? Pinagtagpi-tagping piraso ng hindi natin maintindihan. No? Kapiraso dito, kapiraso doon, kapiraso dito, kapiraso doon. At pinagsama-sama, tinahi. At tinagyan ng title at pinirmahan sa bantang huli. Pero, ang ating po mga mambabatas, karamihan po sa kanila, either busy sila o talagang bobo lamang sila na hindi nila alam kung ano ang mga implikasyones. Kung baga kayo ay gagawa ng pansit, alam niyo dapat ang rekado. At ang mga rekado ay pagsasama-samahin para ang lasa ng pansit pagkatapos itong lutuin ay hindi mapait. Hindi po ba, mga kabansa? Kung mapait yan, ay dahil yung pagtugma-tugma ay hindi malinis. Hindi ho malinis pagkagawa. May mga portion na nag-aaway. Ika nga. Dahil kung saan-saan hinugot. At ito po ang nangyari dito sa Maritime Zones Bill. At sinasabi ko po sa wikang Ingles that this creates more problems than solutions. Bigyan po natin ng paglalaki. The Philippine Senate recently approved Senate Bill 2492 or the Philippine Maritime Zones Bill on the third and final reading, as the House of Representatives passed an earlier version. The two versions will pass through the bicameral committee for synchronization. The final version, as synchronized to be known as the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, will then be submitted to the President for signature to become a domestic law. Ang scope po ng bill na ito, as per the readings of the bill, proceeds properly in subsection A, Section 2, that says, the maritime zones of the Philippine archipelago comprise of, no? Imbis na comprise of internal waters, tingnan nyo, pati sa tense, no? Imbis na gerund, ginawang verb, archipelagic waters, unang-una, internal waters, pangalawa, archipelagic waters, pangatlo, territorial sea, pangapat, contiguous zone, panlima, exclusive economic zone, and panghuli, continental shelf, pinagsama-sama, mga kabansa, na kumbaga yan, lagyan na lamang ng yelo at gatas at konting ube sandwich ay halo-halo na. mga kabansa. A law is supposed to resolve a problem. This proposed law creates more problems than solution. While legislation increases the internal legitimacy of Philippine claims, no? Yung pong increase, ha? Kasi ganyan lagi ang mindset ng Pilipino. Gusto niya lagi sa tama o sa mali, sa mali o sa tama o sa mali. Ganyan po ang mindset ng Pilipino. Dahil tayo ay isang Catholic Christian country, ang ating focus ng pag-judge ng isang konsepto ay tungkol sa rightness or wrongness. Hindi po kung saan yung order at nasaan yung conflict. Hindi kung nasaan yung black and white, kundi nasaan yung red, orange, violet, green, indigo. So, pinagsama-sama po. So, ano ang common denominator ng lahat na yan? Jurisdiction ang kanilang patutunguhan. Pero ganun po ba kababaw ang definisyon ng internal water? At paano ito iba sa archipelagic water? At paano ito iba sa territorial sea? O sa tubig na nasa contiguous zone o tubig na nasa exclusive economic zone o di kaya tubig na parte ng continental, na nasa ibabaw ng continental shelf. Ayan mga kabansa. Okay, nag-increase ang internal legitimacy, but it touches on some sensitive implications of which are still unresolved. Yan po ang diferensya ng lawyer sa aming mga political scientist. Iba po ang orientation. For instance, ano yung mga objectionable portion nito sa aking pananaw? Nitong Senate Bill 2492. Unang-una po, nire-reiterate niya yung incompleteness of Republic Act 9522. Ano po yung Republic Act 9522? Ito po yung batas na ninipag noong 2009 to draw our baselines. New baselines law. Ayan. At ang kanyang implikasyon sa Presidential Decree 1596. Ano yung Presidential Decree 1596? Yan po mga kabansa ang PD ni Presidente Marcos Sr. na nagkikreate ng Kalayaan Island Group sa kaliwa. Tumingin kayo sa mapa, nasa kaliwa ng Palawan. Gumawa po ng polygon dyan na parang quadrant si Presidente Marcos. Nakarugtong ng baselines natin. Alright. Okay. Pangalawa, ano ang implikasyon nito sa ating treaty limits by historical rights of title? Historical rights of title. Okay. Hihimayin po natin ito dahan-dahan. Pangalawa, ano ang implikasyon ng codification ng Senate Bill na ito sa 2016 arbitral ruling na maraming contradictions, mga kabansa, sa many parts of the proposed law. Pangatlo, ano yung delusional? Biglang merong West Philippine Sea na binabanggit sa loob ng SB 2492 without defining what West Philippine Sea is. Ina-assume na define na yan at alam na yan ng mga tao. Hindi po ganyan ang batas. Mga kabansa. Kailangan po specific ang batas dahil kung hindi yan specific, that might lead to ambiguity, that might lead to many interpretations, that might lead to misunderstanding in the enforcement of the law. Ang pang-apat po, bigla na lamang sinabi at nagkaroon ng unilateral session ang pagsakop ng lahat ng artificial islands constructed di umano within our Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone ay biglang inaangkin ng Philippine government. Hello? Baka hindi nyo naiintindihan ang implikasyones niya. Kung merong ibang estado, claimant o coastal state, na nagtayo ng kung ano dyan at bigla yung sasabihin, whatever those is, basta yan ay nasa loob na aming exclusive economic zone, dyan ay pag-aari ng Philippine government. Aba, baka kayo naghahanap ng basag ulo. This typifies pati the hardening of the Philippine position in its disputes with China and Vietnam. Primarily making diplomacy hard to achieve a win-win solution to our problems in the South China Seas. So, punta ho tayo dun sa una, that this does not correct the deficiencies of Republic Act 9522 enacted in 2009, mga kabansa, enacted in 2009, constituting our new baselines law. In its Section 3, the bill adopts Philippine archipelagic baselines defined by Republic Act 9522 when it amended earlier Republic Act 3046 and Republic Act 5446. Dito po sa chart natin sa kanan, yan po yung mga may numero. Ayan. Yan po. Ayan. Nakikita niyo ba ang ginagawa ko, mga kabansa? Dinikit nila dito sa linyang ito. Very close to the shores. Ayan. Tinatahan-tahan ko para makasunod kayo. Yan ho yung 9522. Okay? Bakit nila ginawa yan? Di umano to conform with the requirements of the United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Seas. Pero ano ang pinanghahawaan natin? Ano ang pinanghahawaan natin? Dahil ang UNCLOS, mga kabansa, ay inadapt lamang noong 1982 at naging effective lamang noong 1982 at naging effective lamang noong 1994. Tinahandaan ko kasi nabubulod ako. Excuse me. There is nothing in the Senate Bill 2492 that corrects the incompleteness of Republic Act 9522. Sino nag-point out na kulang yan? Pinoint out po yan ng former Associate Justice ng Supreme Court na si Francis Hardelesa sa pag-aaral na ginawa ng isang international law and conflict resolution expert na nagngangalang Melissa Loha. Ayan. In the determination of the Philippine land and archipelagic territory defining our baselines, ito ho, na in-outline ko sa violet, mga kabansa, which is the Republic Act 9522, ano ang nangyari? Ang teritoryo po ng Pilipinas, bago ito nangyari, palitan natin ang kulay, mga kabansa, para hindi tayo malito. No? Lagyan natin ano ba magandang kulay dito? Pula. Dahil, ang i-outline natin ngayon ay itong dotted line na pula. Kita nyo mga kabansa? Ako ho, matanda na, kaya hindi ko maperfecto ang linya, pero more or less, alam naman ninyo kung ano ang aking pinatutungkulan. Diba? So, ang tanong ni Artelesa, ano nangyari dito? Ano nangyari dito sa espasyo na ito? At hindi lamang si Artelesa ang nag-question ito, kundi ang yumaong Melvin Magallona na Dean ng College of Law ng University of the Philippines. So kung iniurong doon sa violet yung linya ng ating baselines, ano ang nangyari sa treaty limits ng Treaty of Paris of 1898 and two more treaties, which yung territory natin acquired through historic rights. Paano? Throughout history, nakakuha tayo ng territory. Pangalawa, papalitan ko na naman ang kulay, mga kabansa. The polygon drawn by Presidential Decree 1596, ito po naman ito. Ayan mga kabansa, na itinungtong ni Presidente Marcos doon sa treaty limits natin. Hala, ito pong nasa pula. These are supposed to be territorial waters. Ito po ay sovereign waters. Sovereign. Ibig sabihin, pag-aari natin. Pag-aari natin yung portion na yan. Ano ibig sabihin? Na hindi lamang yung nasa ilalim ng tubig, hindi lamang yung nasa bedrock, kundi pati yung lupa sa ibabaw at ang aerospace sa itaas ay pag-aari ng Pilipinas. Dito po sa treaty limits, ito po ay sa batas na, nasa international law na. Dahil ito'y bunga ng 3 treaties. Ito namang green, ito po, itong area na ito, Pocrosaco Valley, mga kabansa, is a claim made by the Presidential Decree 1596 on the basis that that part has been abandoned, terra nullius. So, mabende po tayo, umapula. Saan napunta? Saan napunta? And these are territorial claims. Pag-aari. Alright? Saan ano yan? Saan yan saan nagmula yan? Unahin natin yung Philippine Historic Rights of Title. Alam niyo po, sa isang pag-aaral ng isang scholar na pangalan Luel Bautista in ResearchGate, which he published in December 2009, that was after the enactment of 9522, mga kabansa. The fundamental position of the Philippines that the limits of its national territory are the boundaries laid down in the 1898 Treaty of Paris, which ceded the Philippines from Spain to the United States. And when we were given independence in 1946, we became successors in interest from Spain to the United States of America to the Republic of the Philippines. To be precise, ano itong mga colonial treaties na ito that define the territorial boundaries of the Philippines? At sa 1935 Constitution, yan po ay naka-indicate. The Treaty of Peace between the U.S. and the Kingdom of Spain, kung saan tayo ay binili for $20 million. ng Amerika mula sa Espanya. Hereinafter referred to as the Treaty of Paglinawan. Pangalawa, yung Treaty B between the Kingdom of Spain of the U.S. for the cession of outlying islands of the Philippines dahil yung pong 1898, may mga naiwan pa mga islets. So, sinama na yun. At pangatlo, yung mga kabansa, dito sa ilalim, yung nag-determine, dito yan, yung nag-determine ng boundary between Malaysia or North Borneo and the Sulu Sea. So yan, the convention between the U.S. and Great Britain delimiting the boundary between the Philippines and the state of North Borneo. So yan po. So ano yung nangyari na yan? Ito po ang treaty limits natin. Ang laki-laki. Kung tutuusin po, yan ang original Republic of the Philippines. These lines were drawn from the colonial treaties defining the unity of land, water, and people, which is the Philippine Archipelago. Ayan, nakita nyo, may nakalagay dyan, Tolentino. Sino yung Tolentino niya? Yan po yung isa sa pinakamatalinong Pilipino, si Arturo Tolentino. Nakasama po initially sa diskusyon, lahat ng diskusyon. Alam niyo ba na ang UNCLOS ay hindi agad-agad natapos noong 1982? Yan po yung matagal pinag-usapan. Lampas po 20 taon pinag-uusapan niya. All the waters embraced within these imaginary lines are territorial waters. Pag-aari. Sabi ko nga, mula sa bedrock, sa ibabaw ng bedrock, sa ilalim ng tubig, sa ibabaw ng tubig, sa ibabaw ng land, at hanggang aerospace. Pag-aari ng Pilipinas. Mga kabansa. So yan. Teka, namamatay itong ating gadget dito. Yan. Alright. Okay. Ano ang nangyari dyan? Nung pong, tingnan nyo, 1958 pa at 1960, conferences on the laws of the sea. Ito po yung proseso ng pag-form ng UNCLOS. When it was clear that no uniform rule on the breadth of the territorial sea exists. Prinopose po ng Pilipinas ang archipelagic theory. Ayan mga kabansa. Prinopose ng Pilipinas ang archipelagic theory. No? Ano ibig sabihin yan? Which sought to treat outlying or mid-ocean archipelagos, such as the Philippines as a whole for the delimitation of territorial waters. Pag-aari. May ownership tayo. By drawing baselines from the outermost points of the archipelago and the belt of marginal seas outside such baseline. Doon po sa labas, palabas. Ang nangyari po, sa pinakita po sa inyo kanina, outlined by Violet, papasok, ano nangyari? Pero hindi po ito in-adapt ng conference, for which reason hindi tayo pumirma noong 1958 at hindi tayo pumirma noong 1960. Kaya nakalagay po dito ang aking mga sources. And throughout the conferences, the Philippines pleaded for the recognition of its international treaty limits as encompassing its territorial sea on the basis of historic title. Kayo tatanungin ko mga kabasa. Kayo ba'y naniniwala o hindi kayo naniniwala na ang delineate ng boundaries natin mula Espanya hanggang maging sakop tayo ng Amerika, na pinamana sa atin ng Amerika, na nakuha ng Amerika mula sa Espanya by purchase, at nakuha ng Pilipinas mula sa US to the grant of independence. Kayo ba'y naniniwala na yan ang ating teritoryo? O hindi? Minana lang natin yan. Through history. However, due to the decision of the conference to achieve agreement by consensus, and tingnan niyo kung mabuti ito, mga kabansa, paki-flash ng slide, to the unexpected objection of the United States. Ang nag-object po, Estados Unidos. Akala ko ba ironclad ang commitment nila sa atin? Bakit noon? 1983. Noong panahon na yon, hanggang 81, 85, yan, sinulat ng mga nag-aral dyan, si Ambassador and Secretary Ingles ng DFA, at saka mga scholars na si Van Dyke at si Busan. The Philippine proposal was not included in the informal composite negotiating text. Hindi tayo isinama sa draft ng negotiating text. Bakit? Dahil nag-object yung lolo nyo. Nag-object si Amboy. So, anong ginawa natin? Para proteksyonan natin ang ating historic title. At ito dapat malaman ninyo dahil hindi lahat nakakaalam na miski pumirma tayo sa isang tratado, pwede tayong magdeklara kung saan hindi natin ma-harmonize sa ating internal laws ang probisyon ng treaty. At yan ay pinaalam natin sa Secretary General ng United Nations. Dahil hindi ho pare-pareho ang batas ng mga iba't ibang bansa. Pero ang pumirma dyan ay maraming bansa. Pero meron silang leeway para mag-issue ng deklarasyon. So consistent with our position noong 1984, nagsubmit tayo ng declaration that our signature shall not in any manner affect the sovereignty of the Republic of the Philippines as successors of the United States of America under and arising from colonial treaties that defined its territory. Ayan, mga kabatsa. Ang nakakalungkot dito, may isang nasyon na object sa mga historic rights. At yan ang Amerika. Pero alam nyo ba? Alam nyo ba, mga kabansa? Pumirma ang Amerika sa UNCLOS, sa tratado. Pero hindi nito ni-ratify ang kanyang signature. Kaya, ang Estados Unidos po, blinangka yung ating archipelagic doctrine at po ano-ano, pati itong declaration na ito of exemption. Tapos hindi sila nag-ratify ng UNCLOS. At hanggang ngayon ay hindi sila membro ng UNCLOS. Pero sila ang nakikinabang. On the other hand, the United States that interposed objections to the Philippine Archipelagic Doctrine signed UNCLOS but did not ratify. And it's not a member of UNCLOS and it remains to be the strongest opposition to any nation's claim to territorial waters on the basis of historic rights. Ay, nakakalungkot. Para yata tayong feeling ko yung naseta. So, ano nangyari? Ay, di ba? Tininawin ko na kanina, pinakita ko sa inyo. Gusto nyo magbabalikan ko yung unang chart? Ayan, babalikan ko. Ayan. Yung may mga numerong dots, which is our baseline. May mga numero. Yung dotted line na kwadrado hanggang mula Batanes hanggang Hulo, which is our treaty limits according to the 3 colonial treaties. Itong berde na dotted line na claim ni Presidente Marcos sa PD 1596. Yan pong tatlong yan ang ating paghahambing-hambing. Bumalik tayo kung saan tayo nawala ng teritoryo. Alam niyo mga kabansa, ulit ang ulit itong Pangulong Marcos Jr. nung mantra that he will not lose a single inch of territory under his administration. Ni isang pulgada, sabi niya, hindi ako mawawalan ng teritoryo sa ilalim ng administrasyon. Pero ano nangyayari dito? We are on the eve of losing 70,000 square kilometers doon pa lamang sa pagkawala ng Kalayaan Island Group. Paano naman ito mawawala? Dahil mismo dito sa arbitral ruling na sinasamba nila. Ano ang sabi ng arbitral ruling sa paragraph 574? Ko at ninonombrahan ng Pilipinas. Even the Philippines could not declare an archipelagic baseline surrounding the Spratly Islands. Tapos ang PD 1596. Tinanggal ng 9522 na batas natin at inalis din, kinumpirma ng arbitral ruling noong 2016. The inclusion in its section 6 of the provision, merong siningit ang Senate bill. The high tide features covered by the Kalayaan Island Group in the West Philippine Sea. Biglang in the West Philippine Sea. Wala namang, wala namang ano Bigla na lang sa batas, merong isang biglang minimension ng West Philippine Sea. Hindi naman dinefine ko itong West Philippine Sea. O sinabi ko saan galing itong West Philippine Sea na ito. Bigla na lang sumulpot doon. Tapos sasabihin, shall have a territorial sea of 12 nautical miles from its baselines as determined above. Tama po yan. Dahil pinoprovide ng UNCLOS na yung mga tinatawag na high tide elevation, high tide features, o rocks. Sabi niya, hindi yan mga islands, pero rocks yan. But nevertheless, it's rocks. Yan. Malapit na maging island. Binibigyan niya ng UNCLOS ng 12 nautical miles around it. So, inilagay niya rito. It's a partial compliance with what Hardelesa and Melissa Loja wants. Pero, mga kabansa, balik tayo sa chat. It does not restore the polygon. Yun ang problema. Naglalagay lang siya ng 12 nautical miles sa pagitan ng mga isla sa palabas doon sa isla, pero nawala yung paggugrupo ng quadrant, yung polygon. At hindi naglagay ng latitudinal and longitudinal boundaries para sa mga rocks na yan. So, incomplete pa rin. Wala pa rin silbi. Nakaka-confuse, mga kabansa. No? Hindi pa rin. So, mga kabansa, tuloy tayo. Ano ang implikasyones? Ang implikasyones, idinait nila na remember the dotted lines with numbers? Yun ang ginawang baseline. Tapos around the Philippines, palabas doon sa dotted lines na may numbers, nag-project sila ng 200 nautical miles all around. At tinawag nila itong exclusive economic zone. Which is correct. An exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles from the shores, from the baseline shores, from the land, as close as possible to the land or internal waters. Mga kabansa. So, nasan ngayon yan? Saan napunta yan, mga kabansa? Idodrawing natin sa blue. Ito yung extent doon. Ayan. Ito na ho yun. Yung sinasabi nilang 200 nautical miles. Na-claim, ha? Claim pa lang ho yan. Ayun, oh. 200 nautical miles. Mula doon sa baseline, palabas. Ayan, mula dito, palabas. Alright? Anyari? Aba, mga kabansa. Ito nangyari. Nakikita nyo ba yung maliit na isla na yun? Yun ho ang Parola Island. At yung pangalawa, ang Pag-asa Island. Ha? Ito ho yung Parola. Ito ho yung Pag-asa. Or Tito Island. Sila ba'y nasa loob ng 200 nautical miles o nasa labas? Ha? Sagutin nyo nga ako. Oh, tingnan ninyo. Huwag nyo akong paniwalaan. Tingnan ninyo yung mapa. Tingnan ninyo yung chart. At dahil yan ay wala, balitan natin ang kulay, mga kabansa, at lagay natin sa violet. At dahil yan ay wala sa dito sa polygon, ni Marcos Sr. Ayan, wala dyan. Dahil inalis nila yung polygon na yan eh. Ang nawala po dyan ay 70,000 kilometers of sea. Mga kabansa. Sea area and sovereignty claim. Alright, claim pa lang. Pero at least, nakadocument na, identified. At kung nasa labas ng 200 nautical miles si EEC, ang Parola at Pag-asa, aren't they vulnerable for takeover by Vietnam or China? Alam niyo, around, I think, 1975, nanakawan tayo ng Vietnam ng teritoryo. Inimbita yung mga marino natin na nasa pugad sa kabilang isla kung saan nandun yung mga Vietnam. Nagpakita ng mga chicks, inuman, lechon, kung ano-ano, may birthday party. Nagpunta yung mga marino natin doon. Kinabukasan, lasing na lasing pa sila. Umuwi sila sa Pugad Island. Hindi na sila makapasok ng Pugad Island dahil nakaabang na mga machine gun nest ng mga Vietnamese. Nawala ni Marcos ang Pugad. Noong 2009, nawala ni GMA through 9522. Itong mga sinasabi ko. Hindi pa ho natin, dito sa 70,000 kilometers of sea area and sovereignty, dito pa lamang po yan, sa Kalayaan Island Group, hindi pa kasama yung treaty limits mula sa itaas. Mga kabasa. Mula Batanes. Di ba, kita nyo yung kwadradong gano'n? Laki-laki. Wala rin. At pangalawang area, itong codification ng arbitral ruling. Okay, bibilisan ko na. A ruling was issued on July 12, 2016 over an arbitration case brought by the Republic of the Philippines against the People's Republic of China under etc. with Permanent Court of Arbitration as registry under case number 2013-19. Ano ho nangyari dito? Pakinggan po natin ang isang Vatican na senior ambassador na si Rosario Manalo kung ano ang nangyari dyan sa arbitration na yan. Yan ba ay makatuturang arbitration? Yan ba'y dapat paniwalaan? Was that properly organized? Could that be enforced? Anong epekto niyan sa relasyon between two countries? Let's play the video.
In the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea, would you have anything to say about the joint declaration, the conduct of parties sa South China Sea?
All right. One thing I want to make very clear to everybody here. I don't have to be anti-American and pro-Chinese, nor do I have to be pro-Chinese, anti-Chinese, nor pro-American. All I have to be is, first and foremost, pro-Filipino, because I'm a Filipina. What matters is the national interest of my country and my people. Number one yan. Okay. My approach is this rivalry on the South China Sea started between competition of the United States and China, China and the United States on the South China Sea's availability, whether that be for passage or whether that would be to show who calls the shots, or whether dominance, as my friend Ambassador D says, or whether the exploration of the resources. Okay? It's all of that. But wag ho tayo magpakamit ni sa isa, ni sa kabila. If ever, we should be friends to both, and in our relationship, get as much as we can in that friendship for the benefit of the Filipino nation. Now, let us zero in on China. China considers Southeast Asia to be her belly, just as the United States thinks of the rest of Central America, the Caribbean, and South America to be right under her belly, and on top of her is Canada. Just like the Europeans think of the rest of North Africa and down as the belly of Europe. Ganon yon, if you will see the images. So China, in a Johnny come lately, or maybe not, maybe she's been claiming that when she was still the Middle Kingdom, she was already running around in the whole of the South China Sea, has been saying that, okay, I will dialogue with China, with ASEAN to have this code of conduct, but it took her 10 years to finally come to just do the frame, to have the code. All it has as a declaration on conduct in the South China Sea. Now, I understand that the fact that it's just a declaration, and we do all know that under international law, a declaration does not legally bind member states, is still, as much as possible, a state who signs a declaration has political aspirations that must be consistent with the rest of those who have signed the same declaration. So, even if we have signed that declaration in China, it's still, we cannot say, oy, China, you're bound by this, you behave. Hindi ho pwede yun eh. Because she will behave the way a state behaves. The national interest of my country comes first. But then now, has that behavior brought us, opened our eyes to what she's doing? Yes. Kung sabihin niyang, I will be building on these islands in this Sprat list, like the Kalayaan group of islands which is within this Sprat list. Ang sasagot ko sa kanya, thank you for building my islands. And I owe you nothing because you voluntarily develop it for me. I, the Philippines, I will not give it up just because of that. Okay? I will not also give it up just because China will say, where were you when I was the Middle Kingdom? Ang sasagot ko sa kanya, and who were you if you were the Middle Kingdom? Does not entitle you to own. In fact, it must be part of the open seas until the definitions of territorial sea and maritime waters are clearly defined between you and us. And hindi dyan sweeping statement, bakit? Ikaw lang ba nag-exist before you were the Middle Kingdom? Siguro bago ka pa. Nag-exist na rin kami, hindi lang tayo nagkakakilala. So these are arguments that can well be discussed under a diplomatic umbrella of discussions without quarreling, without insulting. Just as friends, discuss. Like yung Baho de Masinloc, hindi ko i-give up yun. Saan ka makakakitang territory on top of Baho de Masinloc, yung kukunin ng China? What happens? Sa ilalim may extension ng municipality of Masinloc sa Zambales yun. You mean to tell me from there, papasok ka, ikaw may ali na ng Zambales? Hindi pwede yun. Pwede yung pag-usapan yan eh.
Yung continental shelf na tinatawag.
Ang continental shelf. Oh, but under international law, I am an expert in international law. That was my specialization when I took my master's degree. Hindi ko give upin yun. Ang sasabihin ko sa incheck, mali ka ha.
Mm-hmm.
Inaano niya, nile-leverage niya lang. Give up your claim to KGI, hindi ko pakikilaman ang Masinloc. Ganon yan. Diplomacy yan eh. Umupo nga tayo, mag-usap tayo. Ganon.
Okay. Ano po ang mangyayari dahil nagkaroon daw ng arbitral ruling last year? Ano ba ito? Isa pang bagay yan na dapat natin pag-usapan. Please.
Ito ulit, I hope I am not branded as a traitor to the country. But if you study very carefully international law, an arbitration was not set up correctly when we claim our right to the Kalayaan group of islands. I was breaking my brains trying to find out from international law books authorities what is an arbitration tribunal. And everywhere, an arbitration tribunal calls for three parties. The two who are claiming whatever they're claiming, and between the two, the selection of an umpire. And when arbitration is carried out, it is always voluntary. Under the UN Charter, it is always voluntary. However, in the UNCLOS, there was a provision or an attachment or something that made arbitration as a mechanism for solving compulsory under the UNCLOS. But the Philippines, when we ratified and approved the UNCLOS, we opted out of that provision, which means hindi natin gagamitin yung compulsory arbitration. We just didn't want it. All right. without even us talking with the Chinese or wherever, equally the same, the Chinese opted out of that provision. So, both the Philippines and China cannot invoke compulsory arbitration under the UNCLOS because we both opted out. So what is the remedy? Dalhin natin sa UN. Under the UN Charter, which is voluntary arbitration. Philippines wanted it. Ayaw ng China. Voluntary. They say, you cannot tell China, "Hoy, you have to do it." Because, no, it's voluntary. So what did we do? We went and proceeded to set up an arbitration panel. That is not even an arbitration panel. That's just a Philippine panel handpicking the people who will render the very issue that we want at binabayaran yun ang panahon nila. Ikaw ba naman kung babayaran ka at andun ka, hindi ba bibigay mo yung favorable position? That is the China is question. Now, I'm not trying, please understand, I'm not trying to be traitor to my country. I love my country. Pero hindi tama. Sino may sulsul nyo? Kayo nang draw the conclusion, ano? However, the very fact that that decision was given, it has brought to the attention of the world that we have a basis to do some claiming on the South China Sea of the KGI. Pero it does not bind anybody. It's just a position taken by the Philippines, and with the arguments we're giving, ito importante at bakit importante sa atin sa Pilipinas. But that's, to me, an opinion of a plus for us. But it does not bind China nor anybody else in the world. Ngayon, kung magkakaroon tayo ng new process of settling the issue, we will. Kaya, in this point, tama si Presidente Duterte. Itabi muna yan, at the proper time, ilalabas natin.
What about the mechanism for bilateral negotiations?
Yun na nga, bilateral yan.
Ito na yun.
Ito na yun, China and the Philippines.
Walang makikialam.
Wala nang makikialam. Unless we invite others na makialam.
It was an idea of the previous administration to have a multilateral approach to the problem because of other claimants.
Maraming gusto makialam eh.
At papakialamin
Yun
naman
lang.
natin.
Yung maraming makikialaman, meron nga. Ito pinakamalaki yung makikialaman.
Okay.
Ayan ang sinasabi ko, mga kabansa. Since ang Maestro 101, we have been consistent. And this is straight out of my own narrative. And dito, huling-huli tayo ng China. Booking na booking tayo. That is why China is warning about a red line. Huwag niyong paglaruan ang sovereignty namin. Dahil on the basis of historical facts and effective control. Hindi naman historical facts. Sabi nga ni Duterte, they are in possession of the territory and they are in effective occupation of the territory. So hindi biro yan, mga kabansa. Our position is based on a weak attempt at reinforcing legitimacy through this Maritime Zones Act, through the use of lawfare and propaganda. Napakahina ng posisyon natin. At yung mga provocative speeches ni Presidente Marcos at ang kanyang mga aksyones could possibly lead us to possible sanctions, loss of access into the waters, and maybe even more. And his talking points in Australia and Germany even insulted Xi Jinping and promoted the lie before white audiences about the 9-dash line na gusto nilang marinig. At i-explain natin yan next week. Dahil meron tayong iniwanan, napansin nyo kanina, 4 yung binigay ko sa inyo, 2 lang ang ating na, because of the interest of time, 2 lang na-tackle natin yun. Next Saturday, tatakin natin yung 2 others. No? Na hindi naman yan na naging basis for the Chinese claims yung 9-dash line na yan. The President has certified himself to be a puppet of the U.S. and its unilateral-based order that he parrots in front of Caucasians. Hindi na ho ito yung Bongbong Marcos na binoto natin at iniluklok natin sa pagkapanahon. Iba na ho ito. Hindi ko nakilala ito. He has degraded the debate to the delusions of Chinese invasion down to the level of racism and xenophobia. Bakit niya gusto na magkaroon ng Chinese invasion or the perception? Bakit? Gusto ba niyang magdeklara ng martial law? Gusto ba niyang i-extend ang term niya? Hello? Ito po ang stand ng China para balanse naman ang ating pananaw. Play the video.
发现、命名和开发利用南海诸岛及相关海域，最早开始并持续和平有效地对南海诸岛及相关海域行使主权和管辖。二战后，中国政府依照《开罗宣言》和《波茨坦公告》的规定，收复被日本非法侵占的南海诸岛，并恢复行使主权。中国在南海的领土主权和海洋权益包括：中国对南海诸岛拥有主权。 中国南海诸岛拥有内水领海和毗连区。中国南海诸岛拥有专属经济区和大陆架。中国在南海拥有历史性权利。中国上述立场符合国际法和国际实践。早在1948年，中国政府就正式公布了南海断续线，并为历届中国政府所坚持。在很长时间里，没有受到任何国家的质疑。菲方声称中方把断续线内海域都据为领土。 这是对中方立场的蓄意歪曲，不符合事实。菲方应停止对国际社会的误导，停止借南海问题挑起争端，借外力破坏南海地区的和平稳定。在处理南海问题上，中方坚定维护自身的领土主权和海洋权益，同时愿继续同有关直接当事国在尊重历史事实的基础上，通过谈判协商妥处涉海矛盾分歧。 在分歧解决前，也愿同有关直接当事国共同努力，管控好海上局势，积极开展涉海合作，实现互利共赢，共同维护南海和平稳定。
Anong ginagawa mo, Bongbong Marcos? Yung hindi magawa ng Estados Unidos ngayon dahil may gera sila, ha? May gera sila sa Ukraine, may gera sila sa Israel, sa Gaza. At nanggugulo pa yung mga Houthis doon sa karagatan malapit sa Middle East. Ha? Lito-lito na ang Amerika kung ano magiging priority niya. So, imbis na sila ang umikot, imbis na si Blinken ang umikot, ang umiikot ay ikaw! Ikaw ang proxy! Ikaw ang ahente! Ha? With US? With Japan? Ha? With Australia? With Germany, gusto mo pa isama Czechoslovakia, and gusto mo pa isingit ang India. Ano yung ino-organize mo? A small NATO dito sa Southeast Asia? Yan mga kabasa, at tingnan natin kung anong mga comments ninyo sumandali. O ayan si Argules, susulito, kada malaki nagagastos ng Pangulo. 10 na yata ang pasyal niya, dapat po pala na maimbita kayo ni Senator Tolentino sa Senate tungkol sa panukala, tungkol dyan. Tapos na po ang boxing, pinasya na ng Senado yan. Ha? Ramos, Ernie, ha? Sa makatuwid, ginagago tayo ng ating mga namumuno dito sa Pinas. Ano ba yan? Pinasok, TY, sa, ano yan? Three off less nila. Hindi ko maintindihan. Si Alex, yan ang sinasabi ng China na hindi patas ang UNCLOS. Elkas, yay! More power, Kado. Salamat po sa Truth Info. Watched here in Riyadh. Nakakatalino po pag nakakapanood sa inyo at sa GTNR and of course sa Katipunan channel. Ano ang ating pangwakas? Ha? We always leave something for you to ponder over the weekend. At ako'y babalik sa wisdom ni Ferdinand Edrelin Marcos. If the purpose of the American military bases is to strengthen the American military posture in the Pacific or in the Indian Ocean and throughout the world, does this not expose the Philippines to the animosities, suspicions, and conflicts arising out of this American military buildup? Animosities and conflicts that we have no participation in making. And do not these bases endanger the safety of the Filipinos and the Philippines not only from conventional armed attack, but from possible nuclear attack. This weekend, mag-reflect po tayo kung ano nangyayari sa Gaza. Lampas na pong 30,000 na Palestinians ang namamatay. Karamihan, mga kababaihan, kabataan. Gusto niyo po bang maulit yan? Dito sa ating lupang hinirang. Magpapaalam na po kami dito sa Katipunan Channel, ang Maestro, episode 210. At magkita-kita ulit tayo. Maraming salamat sa inyo. Kita-kita ulit tayo next week sa pagtutuloy ng part 2 nitong show na ito. Thank you. This is Paglinawan bidding you goodbye.